Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Aligning with Success. I'm your host, Mike DiMuccio, Royal Diamond with Niken. Since 1997, welcome to our call. It's a great pleasure to have you tonight. And I want to open the floor tonight to discussion because there's been a lot of information that we've shared. And it's time to get a little bit of feedback, get a little bit of the circulation going and seeing how's that information actually being utilized. I know many of you are not in the habit of unmuting and talking, and I'm looking at Ron and Renee there, and I'm looking at others. But this is an opportunity for you to get out of your comfort zone, because if I'm not helping you get out of your comfort zone, there's no progress. You know you're making progress if you're in an area of your uncomfort zone, you know, when you're not comfortable. So I know I completely can feel for you. I feel for all those who feel like, you know, it's easier to be in the background, to just listen and, you know, take in what's being discussed. But when you enter the discussion, when you become part of the conversation, it changes the dynamics of your energy. It changes the situation within yourself. And everything I'm doing on this call, ever since I started doing this call, Aligning with Success, has one intention. It's to improve the outcome for everyone on it. And that means awareness. You know, if we learn something, if I learned anything from my mentor, Bob Proctor, and if the millions and millions of people around the world who, you know, right now are still thinking about the impact that this man has had on our lives, well, one thing he always taught, and all his teachings ever were about, was there's only one thing that we need to develop is our awareness. Everything's about awareness. One of my favorite books in the entire library of books that I have, The Power of Awareness. Awareness. What does that really mean? It means when you become fully informed about something, when you become aware of it to the point where you're fully informed about it, it becomes part of your consciousness. And whatever is part of your consciousness is now part of your reality. So let's say, for instance, the conversation was money. Let's say, for instance, the conversation was, I don't know, a six-figure income. Now, we know that that's not uncommon. A lot of people make six figures a year. That's not terribly uncommon. But in your own business, self-employed, in particular network marketing, that puts you in the top percentile, as it is for most people in the 100%. If you're making $100,000 or more a year, you are in the higher percentile. You're in the top percentile of income, regardless of what country you're living in. But imagine making that in a month. Think about that for a second. I have an image on my. I should bring it down one night. I'll bring it for my call. I have a photocopy of my check from Niken, signed by Tom Watanabe, for literally just over $100,000 for the month of October 1997. That was my first month that I achieved $100,000 in income from Niken for the month. And that month, September, was also the month that I had achieved Royal Diamond back in 1997. So what's the point? The point is, when you hit that, when that becomes part of your reality, that becomes part of your reality because you conceived that it's possible before. It's not like it happens and you go, oh my God, it's possible. That's not how it works in this world. You have to conceive that it's possible, and then it becomes a possibility and therefore a probability, and you can make it happen. If you don't believe it's possible, you're right. And you'll ensure that it's not possible. So our consciousness, our awareness is what dictates the terms of what we are capable of experiencing, not our potential. Every human being on this call is a creation of the Father, the Creator, God, universe, call it what you will, a power that made manifest into form everything that we experience as form. So the potential is there. It's not a question of that. It's what will you experience of your potential in this lifetime is really the only thing that's at stake, in question. So becoming aware of the possibility is the first step towards making the possibility a reality, an experience. And so awareness is everything. And as you become more aware of what's possible from the people around you, from the experiences of others, and then you begin to accept that possibility for yourself, that's the first step towards becoming aware of it. Now, let me give you an example of how capable we are of becoming aware. We have this one faculty of our higher faculties that was divinely given to us and not in any animal. You know, a dog can't think of its thoughts. It can think thoughts, but it can't contemplate. It can't think about. It can't analyze its thoughts. It just has its thoughts. But there's a higher awareness within you that it can actually hear the thoughts you're thinking right now as I'm speaking. So you're hearing the thoughts, but there's another part of you that actually hears you hearing the thoughts. Imagine that. That's that spark of the divine within you. That's what separates you from the animal kingdom and every other living thing. So that's that awareness I'm talking about, that higher awareness that's connected to divine intelligence. So as you become more connected to that higher awareness, as you spend more time meditating, praying, whatever you want to call it, where you become a little bit more connected to that higher awareness, you bring about possibilities. And therefore, everything that then comes into your life is simply a degree of that possibility coming into form because you have accepted it as a possibility. So now I want you to imagine for a second, because that's the gift, your ability to imagine. I want you to imagine for a second that you received a $100,000 check from ECAN for the month of February 2022. Just take a second. Just imagine. Now, it's not a surprise because, you know, things have been building up. It doesn't happen by mystique, by mystery. It's something that's been emerging. It's been coming forward. And you know that it was either this month, next month, but you knew it was coming. There was no question about it. What's going on in your business? What's going on with your team? What's going on in Niken? It was just simply going to happen. And why is it going to happen? Why do you know that? Well, because you've been watching, you've been experiencing, you've been part of a growing concern, a business that's growing, people achieving ranks, etc. And you're the one who's on the front lines of that, encouraging that behavior, you know, showing people that it's possible, giving them the motivation and inspiration to do the things that are uncomfortable but necessary. So you knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time. So now here it is. Does this check feel like you won a lottery? Or does this check feel like something you're incredibly appreciative and grateful for because you know there's so many people behind it. There's so many people that have contributed to its realization, to its manifestation, that you're just simply the beneficiary of the actions of so many people because they believe in something, because they are pursuing something. Think about it. You just got a $100,000 check from Niken. What does that mean? 6% from the efforts of many people who are doing something, who are doing it for their reasons, not yours. So you can't take credit for it. But you can take credit for holding the vision. You can take credit for getting started. You can take credit for keeping it going. You can take credit for encouraging others to keep going when it looked impossible, to keep going when the going got tough. That you can take credit for. But you can't take credit for what anybody did. They did it because they chose to do it. Just as many people said no, maybe more, probably more. So you can't take credit for the people who said yes and not take credit for the people who said no. At the end of the day, we're the product in Nikken, in our check, of the efforts of people independent of us who are inspired for their own reasons. And maybe what we did was give them part of that inspiration because we set an example. So you're sitting there with a $100,000 check in your hand from Nikken, signed by Tom Watanabe. And you're looking at that check, which I did, and I do every single day. I get up to brush my teeth. Every night I go to sleep to brush my teeth. I'm looking at that check. It's in the mirror of my bedroom, my bathroom. Because it's a reminder that you don't achieve greatness on your own, not in this business. And as much as that is, think about all the effort that went into its manifestation, all the people, all the customers, imagine all the positive experiences people are having because they purchased the Nikken products, and experiences you'll never know about. You'll never hear about, but you didn't do that kind of business because these products don't work. And that's what gives you the gratitude, because there's so much happening beyond anything you have your finger on, beyond anything you've actually contributed to physically, mentally, emotionally. There's so much more going on, but you can take credit for one thing. You got it started. You got it started. You gave birth. It's like children, right? We give birth to children. And how much can we take credit for? Maybe some of their upbringing, some of their good habits, some of their bad habits, but not everything. At some point in time, those kids go on to be young adults and then eventually adults and maybe having their own families. How much can you take credit for? Maybe you instilled certain values in them, and there's where you see the legacy of you in them. But at the end of the day, they're making decisions for themselves. They're growing their business, their life, their families for themselves, for their own reasons, not for you. But you can take credit for one thing. You got it started. You got the family started, and you gave it as much as you could when you had the opportunity to influence it. This is what our business is, folks. That's what our business is. And your check, it's just a mirror of that. It's a reflection of that, of giving it all you got, giving it your best, and giving birth to it. Can't take credit for what happens after that. It's going to be up to every individual. I tell you one thing, every time I sponsor somebody, I give them me. That version of me that's operating at that time, best version of me I know at that moment. I give them what I know. I give them the teachings that I know. I give them the tools that I know. I give them the best chance possible that I know. Does everyone take that and run with it and build for themselves a Nikken empire? No. I can't take credit for their decisions. I can just take credit for the possibilities that it provides. It's up to them to make decisions for themselves. So coming back to you in terms of what's possible for you, I gave you a little glimpse into the mindset of somebody who's made a $100,000 check. I made a $303,000 check in Nikken. What's the difference? It's just a few more numbers. At the end of the day, if you've crossed $100,000 in a month, trust me, that's a big mental barrier in most people's mind. From majority of the population, it's $100,000 in a year. But at the end of the day, what is it a reflection of? How smart I am? No. It's a reflection of the independent people out there making choices for themselves. And the only thing I can take credit for is maybe having given birth to some of those people and inspiring them to go on and keep going on. And they did the same, and they did the same, and they did the same. And today, I'm still the beneficiary of a business that produces an incredible residual income because, God, in 1992, I made a decision not to play with Nikken, not to try Nikken, but to actually succeed at Nikken. How many of you made that decision? to succeed. So many people make the decision to try. So few make the decision to succeed. What a big difference that is. Because you will attract the trying experience, no doubt. How many of you have heard the saying, you think you're going to try Nikan? Nikan's going to try you. Nikan's proven. 46 years proven. Tons and tons of people succeeding, proven. This is not on trial. So when you hear that word try, and if you ever hear yourself saying that, strike that from your vocabulary. That word has no value. That word is a little mini excuse for not making something happen. You commit to it or you don't. You don't try. What is that? I think it's Yoda. There is no try. There is no try. So getting back to you and your $100,000 check, or 200,000 or 300,000 or 50,000, what difference does it make? At the end of the day, those numbers don't happen because you're something special. They happen because you did something special. Everybody's special. But what you did was you took that special and made something with it. Everybody's special. But does everybody believe they are? Does everybody embrace it? Does everybody apply themselves as though they are? Do they envision a future that allows them to be wealthy, happy, successful, prosperous in Nikan? Or are they just trying it, hoping? Here's another word. I hope to be successful. Really? That doesn't sound like a decision to me. That sounds like somebody else is in charge of your future. Big mistake. I don't mind inspiring hope in others, but don't hope to be successful. Choose to be. Don't hope something goes well. Choose it to go well. The universe knows the difference between the word hoping something and choosing something. It's the difference. It's that subtlety that makes all the difference. So I had no idea that I would have this conversation with you whatsoever starting this call tonight, because I just came back from Valentine's dinner with my Valentine, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to talk about, but I guess this is just what it is. So I do have something I do want to share with you, which is more of the pragmatic side of me, but I thought it would be worth maybe throwing it out there and just saying, hey, what's in you? What inspires you? What do you want for a possibility for you? Sometimes, and maybe this is on the thread of having been inspired by some very impressive people in the world. I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to spend the time that I have with the likes of Bob Proctor and Richard Brooke, and people who really inspire me. Because when you spend time with them and you hear what they say about things, about people, about life, about possibilities, and you see how dedicated they are, just so dedicated to make a difference in the lives of others. And to the degree that they're able to do that, the reflection of that is how well the world recognizes them, how well they do financially. That's sort of a mirror. That's just it's the return. It's the karmic return. It's the blessings coming back. So I'm so inspired by those people, and I love to hear what they have to say, because their mindset, the way they think about things, really allowed that to influence me the way I think about things, especially when it came to money. I think you are all being paid exactly what you are allowing yourself to be paid. And I'm wondering, is that enough? And the part of me that says no, that voice and I hear in my head that says no, it's not because it's a judgment. It's because that part of me that's wired the way I am wired wants to make a bigger difference. I know we haven't done enough. I know there's not enough people who know about what we represent. We represent the finest in wellness technologies. More importantly, we represent the finest in what makes this community worth being a part of, the virtues and the values of what we represent. The change that the world is looking for is what we stand for. Health, wealth, abundance, prosperity, collaboration, community, working together to support each other. Tell me there's a better version of this somewhere else, because I sure as hell haven't seen it in 30 years. Now, that's not to say it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. And so I'm not going to spend the next 10, 20, or 30 years of my life looking for it. I'm going to spend the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life giving everything I got here, because it already exists here. Barbara, you're wearing an important jacket, if I'm not mistaken. Barbara Bertucci is wearing a jacket that was inspired by a story that Bob Proctor used to teach us on stage quite often. Do you remember that story, Barbara?
Share it, Mike? Yeah, Bob he was amazing. And I believe his story was really about a yo-yo, but he shifted it from the yo-yo to you got to want the jacket. And it was a yo-yo champion jacket or something like that.
It was a sweater. And it was a sweater that you could win if you won this yo-yo contest. That yo-yo, I guess Yo-Yo the company was putting out. As he was a kid growing up, it was like, I don't know, the biggest thing you could have as a kid, I guess. It's like getting a new bike.
So, right. So he said, it wasn't just the perfection of the yo-yo and that, it was the actual jacket and reaching beyond what you feel you're capable of. And I think, Mike, that's what you're saying with the $100,000 check, because my largest check per month was $278,000. And that just it's surreal, really, when you think about it. But when you think about it the other way, and the way Bob Proctor always talked about breaking it down to the minuscule, right? The how many people, how many things, how many minis would that take? He would just ask you the wildest questions to have you think, well, okay, so that would mean that this is how many minis you'd sell in a day. Just bizarre. But for me, what shifted really, and I think for you too, because I happened to be in that room when you declared you were going Royal Diamond and you put your tail on the line and you were saying things and promising things with all your peers around you when you had not a clue where these people were coming from. Not a clue. And I want to say it was like something ridiculous, like 18 silvers, or I don't even remember. It was a phenomenal number. And back then it was way more money, volume and such. But for me, the mindset that I had to break through, the mind barrier that I was worthy of earning over $50,000 a month. What is that? And then take that 100,000 or 258,000 or whatever, break it down to the day, to the appointment, how much is that for you? So when you get that no is, I'm just going to make up the number, $350 no, and so, or, $1,000 no. And it's like, yeah, I got this no, because I'm closer to getting the yes. And I mean, I would be excited and bizarrely excited that, it's okay. You can tell me no, because I'm just closer to the next one. And you did me a service by telling me no, whoever that was at that moment. But what Bob gave me, the gift that Bob would drill, I mean, there were times, and he would just, because he coached us from my business partner back then, from diamond to Royal Diamond. And we were leaving $45,000 to $50,000 on the table every month by not being Royal Diamond. What that means is that extra level down, it trickles down. And that's how much on our check we could see we were not getting. And it was like, oh my gosh, we got to get this done, right? Instead of being happy and not complacent, but because we were working and doing things with 50,000 a month is a really great deal. I mean, that's great, a month. But then we can have more, we could actually help more, build more, and have more people earning the 25,000 a month, or the, have them see the potentiality of who they are, that they are capable of this, and their families capable of this, and that we are making a difference with the things that we have is tremendous, that it's such a gift. But he gave us that mindset, Mike, that you talk so greatly about. I'm packing and I'm going through things, and I'm like, am I ever going to wear this jacket? I have no idea. But you know what? I wore it today.
I got this message today from Barbara on my, I don't know, our text message, and she reminded me of the jacket. And so this is a jacket that we were giving those who attain the rank of Royal Diamond. And we made a big deal about, this, because Bob taught us this thing about this sweater, and it became like the analogy was, you got to want the sweater. So essentially the story is the people who win this yo-yo contest were paraded around as, special, and they would receive this fantastic sweater, and it was promoted in the yo-yo magazines and whatever. And as a kid growing up, he was of course influenced by things like that. Anyway, what you had to do to win this competition was become this absolute sensation when it came to the yo-yo. I mean, tricks and all kinds of things. Obviously, the basic ones. It's like watching figure skating. There's the triple axel, and there's the this, and there's that. And you got to get not only good at it, you got to get great at it, and then you got to add something on top of this to make it even that much better. So he was working and working and working and working at this thing. But he says the people who won these competitions, the amount of hours that they put in playing with a yo-yo, think about all the things you could do in life as a kid growing up, and then dedicating all that time and effort to this yo-yo thing, because it meant so much to them, and winning meant so much to them, that it was all culminated, represented by this jacket, this idea that you could win this jacket. And yeah, I'm reminded from Elaine that Bob would pick up a yo-yo and demonstrate. So he'd actually be on stage and show some of the tricks that he did, that he learned, because he would just be so committed to becoming this person who could be capable or worthy of winning this competition. Just the effort that went into that. But he would boil it all down to, you got to want the sweater. That at the end of the day, you would never have gone through any of those exercises, the trouble, the time, the commitment, the dedication, the broken hands and fingers and strings and so forth, and yo-yos and everything that went into trying to be that guy. You would never have done any of that if you didn't want the sweater. The metaphor being, you got to want the sweater. If you really want the sweater, you're going to do what it takes to get that sweater. And so our analogy then became the jacket, this Royal Diamond jacket that we would parade when somebody became a Royal Diamond. We would present this jacket to them. It's embroidered with their name on it, and yeah, I have mine in my closet. And so yeah, that became the thing, that we would on stage present this jacket to this new Royal Diamond, because clearly they had to want the jacket. And so we tell that story because at the end of the day, what separates us from having what we really, really want? I was watching my daughters last week. Every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, they do a live on Instagram. They call it Conscious Connections. And I'm no Instagrammer, but I got to watch the playback because I asked my daughter to send me the link. So I watched this playback of Sophia, Savannah, and Elena talking, just like we're doing tonight, but the three of them. And they talk about stuff. But that weekend, last week, Wednesday, they did a dedication to Bob Proctor. Now, think about it. These are 20-year-olds. Sophia turned 24 2 days ago. And they're talking about Bob Proctor and the impact that he had on them and their stories and their metaphors and whatnot. and just listening to them express the impact that this person had on them and how it changed their perspective on possibility. It just got me thinking more about how this person, this idea, these thoughts can impact us and generations of us, not just us, but people who follow in line. And I lost my thought for a second about what the point of their being on their call, but the idea here is I remember now. Savannah said she went to the seminar that I brought them down to Los Angeles for Bob Proctor's Paradigm Shift seminar in 2018. And she said, all along, Bob's drilling it. You gotta know what you want. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. You gotta want it. And she says, and he's talking about how much you have to want what you say you want. And she says, and it was such a struggle for her because she didn't even know what she wanted. Now you think, oh, that's funny, but truly, how many of you really know what you want? If everything begins with you having the desire to achieve something, to have something, to be something, wanting something, then getting in touch with that is the gotta want the sweater. And if you don't know what that is, what the sweater is, how do you commit to it? How do you dedicate your time, your energy, the things that it's going to take to achieve it? So it comes back to connecting with your purpose. What does a $100,000 check look like if you are aligned with your purpose? And that's why when Bob would break it down to the ridiculous, you just reduce it to the ridiculous is what he used to say. Just reduce it to the ridiculous. How many mag boys is that? How many sleep systems is that? How many waterfalls is that? I can hear his voice in my head. And
Mike, he would also say, what arenas would you be playing in? What arena? Really think about it. If you have $100,000 check coming in monthly and it's residual and it's starting to come in, where are you playing? And you start thinking, well, I really want to impact the world with reading. And I think people should be able to read. And I had, where would I be? And where would you be flying here? Or would you be speaking there? And, what areas could you impact, with, giving money or giving things or funding things or, and really down to crystal clear. I mean, Mike, I think you had something about education as well in your goal.
Absolutely. I believe that, that's a big part of my motive is why the abundance, why the money, what do you do with more money than you can spend? Well, you invest it in the things that you have value for, you really value. Something that Robert Kiyosaki talks about. You don't chase your passion. You make the money that you need to make to invest in your passion. Most people are so busy trying to chase their passion, they're broke, sick, and miserable because they think that's the goal. But if you could be successful financially as your primary objective, then you have all the time and money to invest in your passion and grow those things. And so it's not something we're taught. It's never something we're taught. It's very rare. I mean, very rare that you could actually be chasing your passion and making money in terms of wealth at the same time. That's unusual. Like that's just not very common. So to be in a business with Nikan, to be in partnership with Nikan, to be able to make the impact that we do, which is so fulfilling in terms of our sense of purpose, and at the same time be able to create wealth and abundance for not only ourselves but others, man, that's a grand slam home run. That's the Super Bowl, and that's the MVP of the Super Bowl. It just doesn't happen very often. So I do not take for granted for a minute the blessings of Nikan, not for a second. I've been one of these people who's been keenly aware from the beginning how fortunate I was to have discovered this. But so many people discovered it when I did. So many people today discover it. but do they treat it as honorably, as urgently, as importantly as I do? So what's the difference between that $100,000 check and a $100 check? I mean, really, at the end of the day, we're doing the same thing. So what's the difference? It's the number of people we've impacted and inspired to take it upon themselves to go beyond where they're at. Or to at least provide a pathway for those who are seeking it. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty convinced that right now in Canada and in America, there's several 100,000 people tonight, praying that there's a solution coming their way anytime soon. They're praying to their creator, to the universe, to their God, hoping and praying that something shows up. Now imagine if that something was you, with this idea of Nikan as, you know, a maybe, a possibility, in the hands of that someone who really is looking, who really does have a need, who really does have an image for the future that is well beyond where they're at in life right now. They're not in their comfort zone. They don't want to be there anymore. Then what could happen? And so what if you made it a point of being less judgmental about what people think about you, about what people think about Nikan, and you made it more about your duty, your obligation to share Nikan, rather than what do they do with it? It's like, you know, you put the menu on the table. If they're hungry, they're going to eat. And you're not going to tell them what they're going to eat. They're going to choose from the menu what they want to eat. So put it on the table. Let them make the decision. But don't do it just once in a while. Do it every day. The difference between a $100,000 check and a $100 check, I think, is the energy that goes into that activity. The activity is the same. You and I do the same thing. You think I do something different than you do. I don't. Every day I hear no's. Every day. Every day I deal with objections. Every day. But there's one thing that I am not attached to: the no's or the objections, because they're still worth money. Why? Like Barbara said, take all the money you've earned, divided it by the number of no's you've heard, and you got a number. Do it. It's a great exercise. Take all the money you've made in Nikan, divide it by the number of no's you've heard, and put a number. What's the actual value? Now you know what your no's are worth to you. I can tell you, mine are worth a lot. So I'm more than happy to hear a no. It's just another opportunity for me to do what it is that I do. Be a purposeful person, a person who gives without the expectation to receive from any one person. It's just, you know, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. I think that's a biblical passage somewhere, right? Just keep giving. Don't worry about where it's going to come from. It's going to come because it's the law of the universe. So, boy, that's a lot of talking from somebody who didn't have an agenda. Does anybody want to jump in here and just give us a little bit of what are you taking from this? What are you hearing? What's speaking to you right now?
Mike, I love this. I love it. And from the last call, I think you know why. I mean, I like to start with this with very, very new people so that they can think about what's possible. Because if the dream isn't available to them, if we don't make it available to them, how are they going to know? Why should they? You know, they have no way of knowing how to dream about this. So I think this is really important, what you've done tonight. For me, of course, but for all of us.
Thanks, Paul. Elaine, you got your hand up.
I also, like Paul, I absolutely love everything you said. I am seeing this in the context of the Steve Covey book that we've been asked to read And the biggest thing for that applies to this is leadership first and then management. And leadership means be a leader. What does that mean to be a leader?
You know, if you're a leader, that means you stand out in a crowd. Essentially, that's kind of what it means, because you're leading. That means there must be somebody following for that to be true. So you're kind of standing out in the crowd. And now think about this for a second. Let's say you're a person who just got a $100,000 check from NECAN. That means you have been leading, right? And you've just now done the 4-minute mile. You're Bannister, or whatever his name was, who did the first 4-minute mile in under a minute, or no, the first 4-minute mile. So he did the first mile in under 4 minutes. So he broke the paradigm. So here you are, $100,000 check. I mean, most people dream of getting that in a year, and now you just did it in a month. How does that make you a different leader? How does that impact your ability to lead? Does it make you more, if you earn that $100,000 because of everything NECAN stands for, does that make you quieter or more animated? Does that make you more or less convicted, more or less dedicated? I just think it's it's really on us to be the best we can be here, because it's just going to be more of everything that we appreciate and value. Just give it everything. It's worth it. Ron, Renee?
I just wanted to share that last week there was a situation that arose where a group of people were asking for suggestions for a gift for somebody that was leaving somewhere. And this is all in an email format. So I typed in my suggestion of a power band necklace as a gift for this person. And everybody else was chiming in saying, they know this person really likes to read. Let's get her a gift card to a books, or, you know, something like that. So then somebody else said, yeah, we can do an independent small bookstore and do something like that. So then I typed back in, I said that I really wanted to clarify my suggestion of the necklace. We know this person already likes to read. Let's get her something outside that can give her something else. And then I also said, look, if I had a retail store, my door would be wide open. I'd invite you guys in to come take a look at what I have. I have an online store. I'm still opening my door open, you know, to come in and take a look at it. And I actually put a link to the power band to it. And then I just let it go. But the point of what I want to say is that after I'd sent that email, you know, read it through to make sure what I wanted to say, I was physically sick.
Wow.
I was so nervous. I was so out of my comfort zone. I was ready to throw up. I even talked to Ron. I said, talk about the thermostat that Bob Proctor talks about. You know, I had gone way over my comfort zone in expressing what I wanted to say about this right here. And then I was just so scared, because it was like I was telling my point of view of what was important to me about NECAN. And I was really surprised at my own response that I was physically ill.
That's amazing. I'm so great. I'm so glad that you brought this up, because, oh my God, do you have any idea that this is 99% of the challenge we face right now in NECAN with people that we enroll and so forth? They are so not. Let me ask you this question. What is the worst that could possibly come of it? Like, think about it. What's the worst that could come of that email? What's the worst thing that could happen? What?
I thought about that, and it was like, okay, they're just going to say no, and then I'll say okay. Or I was thinking they're going to think so terribly of me. They're just not going to want to be my friend anymore. I won't be part of this group. You know, it was all those kinds of thoughts of they're going to be totally rejecting me instead of rejecting my offer of something, which was me too. So
okay, so but there's the connection right there. They're going to be rejecting me. Mm-hmm. You're personalizing it.
Right.
You're putting out something about something. Talking about this. This is the best thing since sliced bread. Oh, no, that's terrible. Is this, what are we talking about here? This or me? Who's making that judgment? So the worst thing that can happen is in our own imagination, in our mind. We personalize it. We think somehow this is about me.
Right.
And so when we get in the way, which we do most of the time, we're getting in the way of somebody hearing something with a degree of neutrality that might otherwise solve their problem and give them an opportunity of a lifetime. We just get in the way of it, meaning you went out and did it, and it was hard to do in the first place. And then when you did it, you felt all the ramifications of that. How many people won't even make the effort to do it, to actually contact somebody because they've already gone through that scenario in their mind and it stops them from actually reaching out to somebody? How many people, just from the crew of people on this phone, on this call, have not heard about Nikken because of this strange thing that's going on in our mind? Think about all the people who have not been given the gift of discernment or being able to choose Nikken because we have put up the roadblock. We have become the judge and the jury because of some personal issue. Think about it. Mrs. Kramer, go ahead. You got your hand up.
Yeah, well, I had it up for something else, but here I have to jump in. I actually met for the first time on a liner boat a couple of weeks ago, 2 people who had never heard of Nikken. They never heard of Nikken. So we were exchanging things, and we're still in communication. The reason that I had my hand up is that what you say about unconditional giving is very profound. And when we reach that ability to give unconditionally and to give with love and appreciation and gratitude that we have what to give, then we will achieve the ability to receive graciously when someone wants to give to us. Otherwise, we create a short circuit and we don't allow someone else to give. Doesn't matter that they're giving to us or they're giving to somebody else. If we give to someone else and then we can see them give, pay it forward, as it said, to give it on to someone else, then it increases something in the world, all kinds of good energy, let's say.
Wow. Wax on, wax off, Mrs. Kramer. Totally on the ball there. So Bob used to say to me, it doesn't matter where I contribute. There's only one source. So I receive from one source. It always comes back through one source. There's only one source. So I can give here, I can give there. Because I often wondered, sometimes he would be so generous of his time, even with me. Like, I don't know, you guys know this, but the 2018 event that we did in Toronto, he was so grateful and glad to be able to do that event for us, speak at that event. And he wanted absolutely nothing. Nothing. This is a guy who charges a fortune for a seminar, comes to our Nikken seminar, does his best, and asks for nothing. Who does that? Well, I know who does that. Bob Proctor does that because he knows it doesn't matter where he gives. It all comes back through one source. So imagine that for a second. Take that for a second inside of you and think, okay, it doesn't matter where I give. I just got to give. And the more I give, the more I get, but it all comes back to me through some source, the one source. So the only thing that I have to control that flow is my amount of giving. Isn't that amazing? So you're actually the hand on the valve, controlling the amount of giving. And when you get in the way of that because you're worried about what will they think? What will they think about my giving? Hey, listen, if your giving is authentic and genuine and they don't get it, in fact, if they come back to you with a negative, What does that tell you? Maybe you're hanging out with the wrong crowd.
But Mike, the energy, if it's not necessarily giving, it's the energy, it's the reaching out. It's the fact that she went out on that little branch and took at risk. It's going to come back to you tenfold. It's going to be something else, and you don't know where it's coming from. Yeah. But the fact that you got up, I always say you got off the roof. I guess that's a thing from Louisiana and the hurricane. You know, you got to get off the roof. You got to get on the boat. You got to get in the car, you know, whatever. You got to leave. You know, you got to go do something, generate something, make the phone call, stand up, you know, finish the conversation with, can I get your information? Is it okay if I send you an email? Can I get your link? You know, I always say, just get the person in your phone. Anyway, but it's the energy. You say the giving, but if you can take it to a different way of generating and putting it out there, it may not be that person and it may not buy that gift for that power band, but that power band energy that you just put out in the universe is going to come back around to you in another way and have somebody really come on board and join your team and really get it. And it's just amazing as long as you stay open and stay playing, because it can't come to you if you stop. Right? Right?
Gotta
That's
keep
what
the valve open.
DOM is.
Got to keep the valve open. Yeah.
There's a postscript to that. There was, I received a reply on the email from the one person that's in charge of this. And that person said, thank you very much for explaining yourself and for letting us know about this option. So I was not bleeding anywhere. I didn't get stabbed by it. You know, it turned out okay. I said, you know, whatever the consensus is of the group, I'll go with it. But at least I had explained my point, and so and I just let it go. Like you said, Mark, you don't know where it's going to be.
Let me give you something to think about as we wrap up here. So you got this $100,000 check now. Now you're not shocked. You're not amazed. You're grateful. You love to see that you broke through the tape. You broke through the paradigm, but you're not shocked because it's been leading up to this. You're giving, you're receiving, your business building, your downline, all of the things that have been happening is just simply the mere consequence of what's been happening. The momentum is building. This was an eventuality. So it's not like you went and bought a lottery ticket tonight and, you know, just threw it in the drawer because you probably know that ain't going to win anything, but you check it just in case. And then what happens if you win? You're shocked. No, it's not like that. That $100,000 check is not going to be a shock to you. You're just going to be very, very grateful for it. But that check represents the unstoppableness of you, the unconditionalness of you, that you were not willing to give up in any way, shape, or form the crusade to make it known to the world that this idea, this NICAN, these products, this opportunity existed. That you're so wired to the on position on that valve that nothing can turn it off. There'll be chances, there'll be opportunities. Believe me, there'll be people who will challenge it, but there's just something about you that says, this is right, this is good. And my role here is not to judge, but to just give it freely. And I can tell you because, and I know Barb can vouch for this, when we got that check, it was not a shock. It was like, cool, like, cool. It wasn't a shock to our system. So how would you like to be the person who's getting a $10,000 check from NICAN and it's simply not a shock? It's not a surprise. It's a mere consequence of what's going on. Or $20,000 check or more. There's people making more in NICAN. You know that, right? So what does it take to be that person? The focus has to be on what it is that creates that as a consequence. That's merely a consequence. Of what? Of the outpouring. My friend says this. I love what he says. He says, the angels, it's really simple. They're all out there. They're everywhere. And the miracles are happening all the time, but it doesn't work unless you make it work. And here's how it works. You move, they move. You move, they move. It's the only way it works. So you're the one who's got to make a move. What does that mean? Go on a limb. Send an email. Take a chance. What's the worst that can happen from it? Like, think about it. Write it down. Write down. What's the worst that happens if I do this? If I make that call to that one person that I've been resisting, what's the worst that can happen? They might not like me. Well, if they don't like me over something like this, that's so good, then do I really want to have that person in my sphere of influence anyways? Think about it. Who do you want to hang out with? Here's another thought. That $100,000 check. That means you've got a team, a pretty cool team. You got people like Leo LeMay on your team. How does it feel? How does it feel to have people like that on your team who think like you, feel the things that you feel, are as passionate about this as you are? Like, that means you've attracted those people, which means you have to go through a number of people that didn't feel that way. Who would you rather hang out with? The ones who don't feel that way or the ones who do? Wouldn't you rather get to the ones who do faster, sooner? Just means you got to go through a lot of people who don't feel that way. But if we let the people who don't feel that way be the reason why we don't find the people who feel that way, or stand in our way, or slow us down, what does that say about us? We're more concerned about what other people think of us than what they think of Nikan. Wow. So, a lot to take in tonight, quite philosophical. Every now and then we'll have that conversation. Thank you for joining us on this Valentine's Day of Love. And because Nikan really is a business of love, I believe wholeheartedly that the frequency of Nikan is the frequency of love. And the reason why you guys are here and passionate about it is because you caught that. Somehow you got that. And what we need to do is help more people embrace it. And believe me, it's not always easy because people have been shell-shocked. You know, they've been through hell and back. And so let's be patient, but let's not stop. Let's keep moving on, because there are people right now tonight praying for this, praying for somebody to introduce them to something that could turn it all around. And between you and them may be that little thing in your head saying, oh, what if they don't like me? Tell that thing, thanks, no thanks, that doesn't help. And do the right thing. Reach out, help somebody see this for themselves. If it's not for them, hey, it's not for them. You're not going to convince them. If it is for them, it's for them. And hey, you're not going to convince them. At the end of the day, you're not going to convince anybody of anything against their will. So just give it out there, let them decide for themselves, and be happy that that's the part you played, that you put it out there. And believe me, you put it out there enough, you're going to see the benefits, because they're out there. People are out there waiting for this to happen. Thanks for all the hearts, all the Valentine's hearts, everyone. So, and thanks for joining tonight. Paul, you got one last thing? We're going to wrap up.
Yeah. With that necklace story, I thought of somebody named Clyde Pack.
Oh, yeah.
Who found Reed Nelson. So people, even if you're in that situation, you just don't know who you're going to find who could just like help you so many ways. It's not just about us, you see, it's about the people who we find.
Here's an interesting approach. How about you ask everybody for their help, because you got this thing, this idea that's so unbelievable, that's so great, that's whose time has come, that people need to hear about, and you just need help getting the word out. You just don't know how to get the word out. You need help. What if that was your approach? Imagine that. Who couldn't you ask help for? And if they're not very helpful, well, they're not very helpful, but at least you're going out there with the consideration. All right, guys. Happy Valentine's. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.